Yeah, the world premiere in Saarbrücken, it was received very, very controversially, because in Germany, if you show violence in films, everyone is like defensive.
Yeah.
And actually, because this film is very, very radical in its approach and very drastic in showing violence, it's all taking place in a German youth prison, and it displays the destinies of 4 youth inmates in a cell, and the last 30 minutes is it's like a chamber play, and very harrowing, very, very emotional, and very brutal, and many people actually were fleeing the audience. I think there were around 35 people who, out of 400, who really went out, and some of them, they were so infuriated that they tore down the film posters, and they came back to boo at the film, and the Q&A was really like a fight.
Do you feel like the German Gaspar Noé now?
I mean, this is at the Saarbrücken Festival. It's not an industry festival where there are only industry professionals, but many people from Saarbrücken, and there were very conservatory people there. If you compare the film to Irreversible or things like that, it cannot stand the form of violence. It's a completely different approach, and it was it's a very special case with violence in films, because there are really scandals over films that aren't really violent, and they cannot be shown in television, and it's nothing compared to films that show violence in an appropriate way. So, on the other hand, a large majority really loved the film and were defending the film in its stance. And but there's like 1/10 of a fraction of the audience who were really appalled and are really angry, and on the other side there.
Okay. So I've read on your website that you have done shorts, features, documentaries, advertisement, and even video art.
Yeah, no features. This is my first feature.
Okay, well.
Yeah. So you know, yeah.
Now you've done it. So now you have the whole package.
But this is my first feature.
How do you choose the format when you want to do something? I mean, this could have been a documentary, I guess, but you chose fiction, and then I haven't seen your other films, but is it like an aesthetical choice that you say, I want to do video art, I'm going to try this out, or I want to do documentary, I don't know how it feels, or is it because, I don't know, you got a proposition to do it, or because it fitted more to the topic?
Yeah, I studied direction at film school Munich, and basically 95% of the things I've done as a director, when it comes to like an artistic vision, it was feature film or short film, fiction film. I've done some documentaries, but for me the most important thing is fiction, feature films. Okay. So that's the way that I want to go, and I do documentaries as well. If I have a theme that I like, and I think there's a truth in there that I have to, and it can only be done in a documentary, then that's the way to do it, and I will do it. But my biggest passion lies in fiction film. Yeah. So, and for me it was more important for this subject in a youth prison to make it as a fiction film, because you can reach a broader audience, and because it's really a story that is told, and you cannot tell the story in a documentary. Was absolutely no way to have done this as a documentary.
Yeah. But do you still inspire yourselves from all these other different formats in a way? I mean, in your aesthetics in the film, is there something that you would say, wow, this is a bit experimental, or this is more like a short film approach? Or do you really go, no, I'm going to do the fiction film, the feature film, like this format, and then you leave the rest?
Yeah, the film is formally, it is not as radical as some video art approaches. It's not formalistic in that way, and it does not try to invent a new style of cinematic storytelling. It is very, on the other side, it's very strictly told with very long shots and not very conventional. When you look at conventional German cinema,
Yeah.
it stands out. It's like, but it's more like the works of Michael Haneke or Gus Van Sant, The Elephant in the Last Days, and Jerry. So of course it's an art house film, and it has a very radical approach, not in the content and in the form, but it does not surpass the boundary to video art. It more feels like it's very reduced in the filmic means. It's in some ways, in some scenes, it really feels like a documentary, because I wanted to make it look and feel as authentic as possible. But it's very stylized in a way, but it's reduced.
But when you say art house, do you really mean art house or more independent? I mean,
Well,
I guess in
yeah.
Germany...
In Germany you say art house for independent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a film, I think it's not an art house film if you compare like the really real art house films. These are films that unfortunately in Germany they don't ever get distribution. It's where the German film market in the cinema is really not the best state. Really, for German films you can make children's film, family entertainment, or big historical
some kind of
films.
TV,
This is the or a
format
TV
film.
or a TV movie. Then you have have it in television, but it's all then very conventional. There's really not so many means to express themselves. Even like the Christoph Hochhäusler film, he had to finance his very first film, Falscher Bekenner, which was at the Certain Regard as well, 2005, just like us, without any TV funding. And it was very, very low budget. We're talking about budgets from 100,000 euros. In France, you can't even make a movie that way. It's impossible, and it has to be conventional. If you get all the TV stations in, and then the creative freedom gets diminished by many people that talk about the vision and what can we see in television. Because now we made the film without a television station,
which is very rare in
which
Germany,
is
basically.
very rare because they give a lot of money and hence they have a lot of influence.
Yes.
Now basically we have all the rights, but of course this is a film that is very violent, and now at least now up until Cannes, the TV stations are quite reluctant to buy it, because when should they screen it? At 11 p.m. in the evening? They're very unsure, and a festival like Cannes is very important to like a cultural value for the film, and we hope that it will trigger some sale for German television as well, but also for cinema, the theaters. But we're very close to signing a contract that it will come to the cinemas in Germany.
In Germany?
In Germany, yeah. And it's being released in France by Rezo Films in autumn, I think. Autumn or winter will come out in France, that is for sure.
So how do you? I mean, I've lived in Germany for 6 years, and I have also not the best image of German cinema. But unfortunately, that's why I'm really happy actually to see German directors in the Cannes or anywhere. What is it? Yeah, what is it like to be a young aspiring filmmaker in Germany? What you were saying with these funding, it's always a problem because you want to do your stuff and they have too much influence. On the other hand, what you make in Germany is labeled as großes Kino, and then when you try to sell it to the US, it automatically becomes an art house film that's only going to be screened in 5 cinemas. What are your thoughts on
the whole system?
Yeah, on the situation.
If you see the film Picco, this is a film that would have never been possible in the German cinema industry. Never. The only thing that made this movie possible was the fact that it was my graduation from film school.
Okay.
So and I actually got a degree on that film, and because film school gave money, and some foundations luckily gave money who saw the cultural value and the cinematic approach as a right one to the film. They gave money too. But we would never have found, with a script so intense like that, and so radical, we would have never found a TV station. So we didn't even ask one. We lost time. So this film would not have been possible. And I think that is a very sad thing, because I think it's an important film for this country, and right now on the festival and on the award prize, it's being acknowledged now. So the people see it and the people receive it in the right way, as it was envisioned by us, and this is a good thing. And I hope that I can do. I mean, I don't want to be like the German Gaspar Noé who does violent films.
No.
This film is violent. I did it not because it is violent, because I thought the story is really strong and conveys a deeper truth on us and on humans and on German society, and maybe as a universal society. But the next film is, for example, I'm developing right now, is not a violent film. So it will be, I think, much easier to finance the next film.
But still, with all the struggles you had to make this film now in Germany, do you still want to do your films in Germany, or would that be a reason for you to say, oh, this is too complicated and they are not, or I'm not fitting in here, I'm an outsider, so I'm going to go to France or to another country to make my film? Or is it important to you that this remains a German film, like you said, because it's important for the country, but also because you're a German filmmaker?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that the film will work internationally as well. Frédéric Boyer of the Kanzen, when he invited us, he told us it's not a German film, it's an international film. He really liked it a lot, and I hope that it will get released in many countries, because it's a prison film, and it definitely works internationally as I see it, but it's like a business thing on the other side. The market is quite slim. I'm like half American, so and there are like first contacts established to maybe set a foot on the US market, because it really is difficult to because I'm always interested in with my films and telling stories that never have been told before, or in kind of a new way, new approaches to set foot on unknown islands. And this is always a bit difficult in Germany, because people on the TV stations are very timid and very shy, because they have a lot of responsibility money-wise on their backs, and they always stick to winning things that have been successful in the past. So if you want to tell something new, it's much more difficult in Germany than I think is in France, for sure, and I hope this is maybe in the United States. I don't know it yet. But on the other side, I feel very rooted in the German culture. I have this two hearts in my soul, so to say, and I'd personally like to stay very long in Germany and make films there, because I know the country, I know the people, and I think I have stories to tell that cope with the German identity.
How do you? What's your relation to other German filmmakers? Do you feel part of an entity that is making German films, or do you have this feeling that everybody is making their own little stuff?
There's like what you call the Berliner Schule. This is which I'm not part of. Maybe there are some kind of similarities, because my film too has no film music, no score, and it's very reduced. But I actually don't have. I don't see myself rooted to some kind of school or that stuff.
This is also an issue in Germany now. I mean, these big film schools like the HFF in Munich, the HFF in Berlin, the Deutsche Filmfernsehhochschule, and then maybe Köln or Cologne. There are all these kinds of competitions, and they're very, very strong, I feel. There is a section in the Berlin Film Festival called Perspektive Deutsches Kino, and when you see the films they are screening there, every film comes from one of these four schools. It really looks like a competition. I was like, okay, we're making this. How did your school react to this film, or were they enthusiastic about it?
They were very, very, very enthusiastic about it. and which surprised me because I thought that it will be received controversially in the HFF as well, but they saw that it was really well made, strong actors, and that the story in the film worked, and they did really a lot of support. I really am truly proud that I've been to this film school. Of course they have like competition with other film schools, and that they're now very happy that the film is being shown here at the most important festival. But the Berlinale, for the Perspektive Deutsches Kino, the Berlinale rejected the film in every category, even for the tiniest little. They did reject it for every single category. So we premiered in Saarbrücken, which is which is a much smaller festival, and we were quite disappointed in the beginning. Because
why would you say that? Did you have an idea?
I have absolutely no idea. Yeah. Maybe there's just one who didn't like it, and the whole committee didn't like it. Didn't see it. I can only wonder, because I think it's and then many people say this. It's a very important film of Germany, and like all the press says it as well. And well, now of course, running in Cannes is really. We would never. That was like a jackpot, and. It was really great after the Berlinale said no for everything. We were like,
so kind of like, okay, we're taking this. Yeah. And what was your approach to this topic? Did you because I heard it's based on actual events, so it's something that happened in Berlin, I think.
Actually, it happened. There was like numerous torture scandals in German youth prisons. The most notorious was in 2006 in the prison of Siegburg, where the victim died, and he was like it was an extremely brutal case, murdering in a cell of 4 youth inmates that tortured one inmate in over 12 hours and forced him to commit suicide. And it was really an event that shocked the nation. It was across the boulevard magazines and all that stuff, and that was the first time that I came into contact with the I thought about or reckoned the status quo of German youth prisons, but only years later I started to think about what about making a movie out of this, and then I started researching. I went to youth prisons and talked to the wardens, to the inmates and the psychologists and all that. And there was a lot of research in it. I researched over a year. Yes. And basically almost every second scene or something is based on a true event that has happened in any German youth prison, and I put it like a mosaic piece. I put it together and made it to the story of these 4 people. And so it's not just the recollection of one thing that happened, but it's like really a kaleidoscope of German youth prisons. And research was very important for the film.
And the movie, but was the movie shot in a studio or in an actual prison?
For me it was very important, and I'm so happy that we found a prison that was shut down 1 year prior to shooting.
Okay.
So, which was a fantastic opportunity, because we had like a whole prison totally for ourselves. We could do anything in there. We built things up there. We had to modernize it a little because it was shut down because it was a little too old. But we could do really. It was much more important for the authenticity not to shoot in a studio when you always have the feeling that it's a little fakey. And now we have really like Steadicam movements from inside the cell, through the aisles, up a stair, and into another room, all in one continuous shot, which is great in a Steadicam sequence because you really feel the limitations and the totality of room, of space, and you really have the feeling of being locked in with these people, and this is really claustrophobic. I think because the violence, if you see the film, the violence is not is in absolute no comparison to films like Irreversible, but it's only in the heads. of the audience.
So you show
It's really
and
the
don't show.
claustrophobic. I don't show. I don't show. There are like 3 or 4 scenes where I show in a really wide shot violence that is really not as violent as slamming a head with a fire extinguisher. Not at all. But it's like, and the first 70 minutes there's hardly any violence. There's like one scene which is kind of violent, and it's the claustrophobia and what happens in the off-screen. A lot of the off-screen is very important for the film because in my mise en scène I have many things happening in the off-screen as to what is shown and what is not shown, and 80% of the violence is shown in the off-screen, and which I would have thought, okay, this is makes it more bearable for the viewer.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, of course, it's unbearable to have to envision it in your head. So for some people, it's really. I mean, there were people in Saarbrücken. There was a little elder lady who was hysterically crying in the audience, and she had to be brought out by the personnel because she was really totally wrecked. And there were people, one woman who really loved the film, but she had to vomit after she had to vomit after the screening. Not in the theater, but saw it at home on a DVD. Actually, a film journalist who has seen thousands of films, and after seeing this, she was because it's so documentary. It's not stylized in a way as Irreversible is, even though it feels like a documentary, and then these young people do things to each other that are really almost unbearable to watch. Yes. And it's a really, really tough film. And I'm like very excited how it's going to be received here, because I mean, Cannes is of course more. I mean, last year with Antichrist, they saw things that are much worse, and it's and again not comparable to a film like this. Because it's the realism, not the cinematic realism, but the authenticity that it feels almost like a documentary style. But it's not with a shaky hand camera and like improvised dialogue. It's really, really precisely mise en scène. Yeah. But the filmic means are so reduced that you have the feeling, and I wanted to that was my intention, that you have the feeling that you as an audience are locked in this cell with the 4 others for this period of 104 minutes. It's like you have a film in a youth prison, and that makes it kind of a prison drama or with thriller elements. Yeah. Many people compare the last 30 minutes of the film compared to Funny Games. Which one? Oh yeah, the original. But it's a shot-by-shot remake, so...
Yeah, there's not much different. Okay, and are the actors, they must be then also quite young actors now?
They're young actors, like 18, 19 by the time of shooting, and but they were very experienced. Konstantin Foyasharov, he's been playing for 10 years and it's now his 2nd time in Cannes. Frederick Lau, who's a tremendously good actor as well, has won the German Film Award for Best Supporting Actor 2 years ago with Die Welle. And he's a fantastic actor, and it's the first time he plays really a tough guy. He always was cast as like the whiner, and now it's the first time where he can really show off and what he can, and he really does it tremendously well. It's really a joy to see him. But all the four actors in this cell are really, really great. I hope they will be awarded for their work, because what they've done it's really great.
Is your film in competition for the Camera d'Or?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
But the award is running here.
Yeah.
It's like 25 films are nominated, so it's skipped that.
And so people tell that your film reminds them of Haneke, etc. Is it these directors also you draw your inspiration from, or these people that you admire especially in their
there are lots of
cinema?
I have to admit that Werner Herzog is like my all-time favorite.
Okay.
I've seen everything from him, even his shorts and documentaries. I really love him. I think for me he's like the best, and Aguirre, the Wrath of God, for me is the best film ever made. I think there's nothing at all from Werner Herzog in my film right now. It's in other films, because with this film I found something new for me, and I experimented really on a reduction of filmic means. In my prior films, I've had a lot of film music, for example, and I wanted to be really radical in this approach. And there was some influences, of course, for the film from directors I find really, really important and I really love. It's from Michael Haneke and Alan Clark from Great Britain, who made a film called Scum in 1980, which is kind of a... If there's one film you can compare my film to, then it's Scum, because it's really... I mean, even Hunger and Prophet is different in a way that it's in a prison with many old people as well. And in my film it's really a youth prison where you see that there are children. And this is one of the main differences to other prison films where there are grown-up people.
So
Gus Van Sant, Elephant, there are some quotations in my film as well.
Did you approach the film with the thought of making a political statement, or more of a portraying of what's the reality in these prisons?
I think there are two sides here. On the one side, I think it is a political statement, because I think it's an important film for our society, and I think that the youth prison system really has to change. And I really have the wish and the hopes that the film can lead to a discussion, to a social political discussion, that things can change. That is my great wish. On the other side, I don't think it can't be the aim of a filmmaker to always correct politicians or social pedagogues or something. I think as a filmmaker, and that was the true reason I wanted to make this film, you have to look for truth about society and truth about man. And for me, this story that I found, and based on these true events, for me they had a truth in them. I can't really say what it is, but I really had the feeling that this story had a truth in it that I really have to tell. And I think this is the main point, because there are so many political issues that have to be improved, and I don't make a film out of them. But in this special case where you have children, youths, it touches me personally in a way, and I think truth is only transported by feeling. I think you can only find truth in emotion. Even if it's an intellectual truth, even that can trigger emotion, then it becomes true. And it's like the synthesis of emotions and intellectual that can trigger truths as well. So this is what I'm searching for in all of my films, and sometimes you find it, and sometimes you don't. And for this film, I have the feeling that I found it. Even maybe in 5 years, I would have done things differently. But I think that, I mean, it's a small film, but I think there can be also a big truth in small films.
Yeah. Before you went to film school, you worked as a film critic?
Yes, but very, very, very small.
So it was not your main activity?
No, it was really always on which I done as a hobby, or for me it was very important, because making films, it was not. Well, I started like shortly before film school, and continued working as a critic for a really small magazine, but it wasn't for the fact of money or anything, until the first 1 or 2 years of film school. And it was very interesting an interesting experience, a different experience when you make films and when you write about films. My film critiques often were more essayistic and not in any like a classical review. It was how I saw film, and that specific film, and it was very, very different. Kind of nourished each other then, thinking about film and making them. So.
And what gave you the push to like go to film school? Because you started then when you were 24 or something.
Was I 24? Oh, I'm 27 now. I was 21. I was 21. I was very young. I made my
film school.
Yeah, I started in 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, I studied 6 years now.
Okay.
And I made my baccalaureate in 2002. Or 2002. And the year after, I saw it was like I was writing film. I started with the critiques in I think 1 year prior to my high school degree, and continued like 1 or 2 years or 2 or 3 years, and then I didn't have the time.